All right, YouTube, good days are ahead for those of you who support the Second Amendment, who understand the militia is the civilian population able to be mustered. It's not a standing military. That understand the Second Amendment is not subject to the whims of the federal government. It's inarguable. It's not up for debate. Unless they wish to try to strike it down with a constitutional amendment, in which case, good luck. You'll have about 100 million people fighting you. But you're welcome to try. If you think you can get, what is it, 2/3 or 3/4 of the states on board, along with a supermajority in the House and Senate, go for it. Yeah, good luck. It'd be a wonderful time for you, I'm sure, when you quickly realize people will not obey such a dictate from the government anyway. Good luck. For those who don't want to be cucked, though, grand days are ahead. For a long time, the Democrats have wanted to slowly denigrate personal firearm ownership. Using their largely misconstrued arguments. Oh, the militia is the military. Oh, this means muskets, or some crap like that. There are a million ways to combat these lame-ass arguments. But the Republicans, I will say this, undeservedly, if you're a Republican, you're like a Republican partisan. The Republican Party, by and large, does not deserve your adulation on the gun rights issue. What have they done for decades? They stand in the way of new gun control, but have they ever suggested seriously repealing old gun control? No, and the fact is we've already got unconstitutional levels of gun control in this country. In fact, any significant gun control that's not related to explosives is unconstitutional. If it has anything to do with small arms, yeah, the people as the militia have the right to field them. We're talking about weaponry which can be used for defense of nation. And the average person with, a rudimentary degree of training, whether official or, old pap taught me how to use this weapon or something, is capable of fielding such weapons for that purpose without undue civilian casualties. That's the case with, all small arms. Blades, I don't understand why you can't carry swords around. I think that's retarded too. I think if you're Fedora and you want to carry your katana around, go ahead. You might get beaten up for it, honestly, because you're like a neckbeard drinking Mountain Dew and you're making lame jokes to some muscular dude's girlfriend or something like that. But, okay, if you want to carry it around, go ahead. I think it should be legal. But the Republican Party hasn't actually tried to repeal anything in a long time. Bush let the assault rifle ban expire, but he didn't, make any specific personal effort to say, oh, yeah, I'm so pro-gun. I think that civilians should be able to own nuclear weapons. He never did that. Reagan was never particularly strongly pro-gun. Bush wasn't. Herbert Walker wasn't. None of the Republicans lately really have done anything until now. Trump, a New Yorker, no less, a total urbanite from the largest urban core in the country, is more pro-gun than fake Texas rancher George W. Bush or something like that. Who was born in Connecticut, let's face it. But, it's fantastic. He's talking about the Hearing Protection Act here. Now, the Hearing Protection Act is basically the recognition that firearms are loud, and if you put a suppressor on them, they're a little bit less loud. Now, a lot of people think that means silencer. There's no such fucking thing. You put a suppressor on your weapon, it's not going to make it silent. It'll make it quieter. It'll make it so you can fire it without maybe your ears ringing or something. You get a 32 or something like that. Yeah, it's loud, and then it's less loud, and maybe you don't have hearing damage over time. Maybe when you're 50, you can still actually hear, and you're not completely deaf in the ear closest to wherever you're holding the gun, depending on how you're holding it, I suppose. No, it's a crazy idea to tell people that this little piece of hardware that goes on the end of your firearm should be illegal, or that even it should be regulated. Why the hell should it be? It's not a weapon in itself. If you take it off the actual gun, well, how are you going to use it as a weapon? You're going to hit someone in the head with it? Well, then why don't we have a baseball bat registry or something? I'm scratching my head trying to think about how it's a bad idea to allow people to own suppressors. They're at the firing range. Yeah, they can wear the little ear protectors and so forth. That's great. What about people around them? Hey, son, let's go hunting. Oh, I don't have an extra pair of earmuffs or whatever. Yeah, you could give somebody hearing damage around you by firing your weapon. What about situations where you need to deploy your weapon, defend your property, defend yourself on the street, and you're being mugged or whatever? And, you know, what are you going to do? Say, oh, hold on a minute. Hold that thought for a moment. And you say, I'll be right back. You go to the garage and then you get your ear protectors on. Then you come back and shoot them. I don't think so. It's just not the way the real world works. So, yeah, I'm strongly in support of this. I think that the ban on fully automatic weapons should be repealed as well. I'm serious about that. You can already own a Gatling gun, by the way. If you really want to, if you want to obtain or build one, you can literally obtain a Victorian-era Gatling gun, one of those crank-powered ones, because it's not considered an automatic. Even if you, like, put a second gear system on it so that it's got a really high rate of fire, yeah, you can still own one of those. You don't even have to register it. And by the way, machine guns are already legal too. You just have to apply for an extremely expensive permit to own it and be able to maintain it and so forth. You know, that's a little bit of a stumbling block for the average gun enthusiast to pay that amount of money just to register such a piece of equipment. But yeah, you can own one. Yeah, you can take it to the range and you can go pop off your machine gun if you really want to. So why exactly do we have a ban on them in general? Why does it exist? Shouldn't. You want to own a Tommy gun? Who fucking cares? People used to own them all the time. You know what? The violent crime rate was lower in that era of time than it was until very recently. The gun crime rate right now is higher than it was before we started banning the Tommy guns of the world. Violent crime rate was lower back then. During the period when you got bootleggers and everything else. It wasn't until people started deploying those weapons against people who were enforcing an unconstitutional dictate on them in the first place that they started banning them. People managed to get along just fine back when they had cannons in their backyard half the time. People owned their own cannons. They owned automatic weapons. They owned explosives. They had TNT sometimes. Farmers would go to the store, buy TNT to blow out tree stumps. And society did not suddenly collapse as the result of this. In fact, it was sort of that spirit that founded this country and kept it going for several hundred years. It was a good time was had by all, other than the fact that you got, smallpox or something like that. Oh, sorry, 5 of your 6 kids died in infancy. But at the same time, yeah, we can blast these tree stumps out. Great time. Now, the GOP, for a long time, has been the party of maintain what gun control we already have and don't push the issue. The Democrats have been the one constantly pushing, but now Trump's going to push back. He's going to say to fuck you. No, you're going to have suppressors. You can have those. Hopefully he goes and rescinds more gun control. By the way, the one thing that I will disagree, I don't think that people on the no-fly list should be banned from owning or obtaining firearms, because that's not a trial. They have the right to represent themselves in court, to challenge these charges, if and only if that is allowed to people, so that the no-fly list crap essentially goes the way of the dinosaurs, so people can challenge it in an honest-to-goodness public court of law, bring forth witnesses, cross-examine and so forth, get an actual trial. Only then will it be acceptable for people on the no-fly list, in my opinion, to be banned from owning firearms, under the concept that they're literally a felon, they're a terrorist. Otherwise, if they haven't actually done anything, no, they have the right to bear arms. You haven't charged them with anything. You've simply told them, oh, you're not allowed to fly in a plane. By the way, you can't challenge this in court because we're not going to give you any of the evidence against you because it's all classified. It's collected in a classified manner. Well, how very convenient. You see, the problem is that's unconstitutional too. Trump is going in a good direction here with firearms. The Republicans should push. You want to strengthen your core. In small-town America, you will repeal some articles of gun control. Not just say we won't have any more of it. You'll repeal some of it. Make it harder for the Democrats in the future, by the way, as a party, to go after it more. Who knows? The next Democrat might be pro-gun. It might be like a Jim Webb Democrat. I'm getting a sneaking suspicion that they're going to try to pull a Jimmy Carter because of what happened in Utah. Trump's support ebbed among certain religious groups. He won primarily because of jobs, not because of, I praise Jesus more than my opponent. Clinton tried to be an evangelical candidate. They might try to pull a Jimmy Carter out of their ass to grab up places like Utah. Don't put it past them to try it. Not the worst strategy in the world, by the way. I'd completely fundamentally overhaul the entire party platform. They'd have to be literally Jimmy Carter. They'd have to reconcile, I am religious, I love Jesus like you do, with I'm also a bleeding heart liberal who wants to forgive all student loans, essentially. They'd have to fuse the two. I see them setting up for this almost right now. Increasingly, groups like Solon being liberal, they allude to Jesus. Oh, Jesus would have loved the immigrants. Jesus would have accepted refugees, stuff like that. It's great because a few years ago, they were the party of religion is a cancer, the church should be burned to the ground. So, yeah, they're going through a little bit of a transformation right now. A little bit of a paradigm shift of their own. Let's see if it actually takes hold. As far as guns, though, this issue is settled centuries ago. The government does not have the right to disarm people. That's just the way that it is. If you want to pass another constitutional amendment to strike the second down so that it becomes legal for the government to disarm people, you're welcome to try. You're welcome to proceed with such a plan. It won't work. It would never get past Congress. It sure as hell wouldn't get past the states. And if by some miracle it did, and you instituted it, good luck disarming hundreds of millions of weapons from people. Because all those tanks and drones and planes that you talk about, oh, we're going to get those gun owners good because you can't stand up to an Abrams tank. You have to supply fuel to such things. Kind of hard to maintain a supply line in such a large geographic area when people are constantly sabotaging the oil tanks, so to speak. Good luck. That wouldn't work. The U.S. military would actually lose against the U.S. population, unless it intended to commit genocide. Then it could do it. You know, deploy nuclear weapons or something like that. Otherwise, yeah, they'd probably defect anyway. Be a fool's errand. You think the U.S. military would even bother? They'd say, fuck D.C. No, they've got families too. They're not going to open fire on their own communities at that point just to disarm people's guns when they themselves tend to be quite conservative and pro-gun. It's just not going to fucking happen. Milgram's experiment at that point goes right out the window. To the point in which it's useless. Trump's going to repeal gun control. He alluded to this, by the way. This is another one of his campaign promises. Oh, I'm going to peel back gun control because I'm not on board with it. Oh, yeah, you'll get your suppressors. Assault rifles, yep, you can keep owning them. He's more pro-gun than any Republican candidate's been in a hell of a long time. The Republican Party for decades has talked a big talk. Oh, NRA is great. How lovely guns are. Here, let me fire off a few rounds for the paparazzi or whatever, so that people know that I'm pro-Jesus, pro-gun, apple pie and grandma in the rocking chair American. They talk a big game, but then when push comes to shove, all they do is stonewall new gun control, and they don't say anything else about it. Oh, gun control bad, but they never peel it back. It takes Trump, who used to be a Democrat, not necessarily the most right-wing Democrat, and not a blue dog either, from New York City, to actually repeal gun control in this country. Who would have possibly fucking thought? Trump is the best friend that the modern Republican Party has. You just don't see it yet. It's going to be pretty good. That's about all. Peace out.